Okay, good afternoon. This is the call to order for the Public Services and Facilities Committee meeting. It's 1 o'clock on Thursday, September the 21st, 34th anniversary of Hurricane Hugo. And I would like to call this meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. We have all of our committee members either present in chamber with Council Member Myers and myself, and we have Council Member Popson on FaceTime or Zoom with us attending the meeting as well. First order of business is citizens' comments. Do we have any, Nicole?
No, sir.
No citizens' comments, so we'll move on to the approval of the previous meeting minutes from August the 8th. Do I hear a motion to approve the meetings, the minutes?
Motion.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, second. Any changes or corrections that need to be made? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. No opposed. Okay, no old business, and we will move right into item 5, which is the new business, and it's going to be presentations of respondents to our request for qualifications, RFQ 2023-01. The design builder for the modification and repairs of City Hall, and we'll be hearing today from both Trident Construction and Hill Construction, and also some architects that are along with them as well. So Desiree or Douglas, I'll turn things over to you, I guess, first to just tee things up before we get to the actual presentations.
Sure. Good morning. So as we reported at our workshop last month, we issued a request for qualifications, invited folks that we've worked with in the past to provide us with their qualifications to pursue with this project. The idea and goal for tonight, for today, is for us to hear from both groups, fill out the evaluation criteria that was included in the RFQ document, and then select one of the firms to pursue working with them on a proposal for the work that we have conceptualized for this budget year. We have Trident Construction with who is partnering with McMillan, Passon Smith as the architect. We're hearing from them first, and then later we'll hear from Hill Construction, who would be partnering with Coast Architects.
Okay, thank you. So I guess we should go ahead and call Trident Construction up first and let them go through their presentation.
Okay,
Thank
you
you.
so much. My name is Todd Bullwinkle. It's good to see everybody and meet some new faces today. And thank you for having us here. Not only thank you for having us as part of this, but also the relationship we've had for over a decade working with the city. It's been a pleasure, and we're looking forward to another opportunity with you guys. As we get going, we understand it's a 15-minute presentation, some Q&A. We would love interaction, so if you also choose to ask a question as we get going, please interrupt us. We're happy to have more of an interactive meeting if y'all would like to go in that direction. I just wanted to kind of commend the city on the process, this kind of qualification-based design build selection. For 42 years, it's really all that Trident Construction's done. We do believe it's the best way to deliver construction, bring that team together. So kudos for going down this route, this procurement route. I want to introduce the team a little bit. So I think this first slide touches on that. I've already touched on myself. I'm here because I was part of the public safety project a few years ago. So I was a project executive on that role. This whole top line here, John Edward Griffith behind me was our project manager. So kind of day-to-day, boots on the ground with our superintendent, making sure that thing got done. Chris Burrow was our pre-construction coordinator on that one. So from the Trident perspective, we brought that whole team back to the table and hope we can continue here working at City Hall. From our design team, we quickly realized MPS was going to be a fantastic partner. Brian Fessler is here as our project architect. Has a tremendous amount of municipal experience in just this kind of thing. Michelle Smith is their principal in charge, who also has a lot of experience working with these City Hall type projects. And Ryan Phillips is behind me, and he's super familiar with the island, how things go, has a great relationship, and we want him on board. Just if there is a need there, we quickly have him to address it and move forward. So it wasn't just the firms we thought would be this best team. also the individuals. So we're all working together on multiple things. I've got projects with Brian and Michelle and John Edwards working on. So we counted them up. There's over 54 projects we've done with NPS over the years, probably another 50 plus with Seaman Whiteside. So the organizations we thought would be a great fit, but also the individuals, because kind of that relationship thing to us is what it's all about. And I know this design team has a phenomenal relationship, and hopefully we can extend that to you guys. So with that, in essence, the time I'll turn it over to Chris.
Good afternoon. Name's Chris Burrell, and I actually live 2702 Cameron Boulevard. Believe it or not, Trident Construction was a part of the first design build project on the island back in the 90s with Fire Station number 2. And there you see a quote from Chief Ann Graham, who we made a raving fan through our work with her on Fire Station number 2. And then she turned to us on the public safety building, and we were lucky to work on that with her. And I just want to say just how much pride I have, and just really am so grateful to have been a part of the public safety building. Kudos to the team, to council, to Desiree and Douglas. It really was a fine old machine, and it ran like one. And the best part of it is we were able to send Chief Ann into retirement peacefully and not having to worry about her sick building and the impacts it had on her staff or the police. Meant a lot to me personally, just because I'm on the island. I just need to be an advocate and make sure things are done right and we're taking care of our people. That being said, we got selected, and we sat down with Desiree, Douglas, and the team and came up with what would lead to a successful project, and we defined that early on, and then we took that definition and we mapped out a roadmap for how we would go about knocking out the public safety building. And it was very organized, very well thought out, and we went through and meticulously hit every milestone. Went through a deep dive of an investigation diagnosing what was wrong with the building, determined some things, put together a long list of just a cafeteria type pricing exercise where they could say, this is a need, we got to do this is a want, we might want to do this, but let's see if we kind of have some money left over at the end of the day. So we went through that process expeditiously, and then John Edward and our superintendent Jack, who retired, they came in and they just hit a home run. And I'm happy to say that at the end of the day, and this was all during COVID too, by the way, got through the project, finished it a couple months early. We're able to get the staff back in there earlier than expected. And then also we're able to give back a good chunk of change, $263,000 back to the city. And it just, we enjoyed working together, and it was a great project, and just super proud of it. And just kudos to Desiree and Douglas for their leadership. Talking about our process, we believe that the earlier that you can get the contractor and the architect working together is when you get the highest and best value. Our buzzword through our process is smart choices. And that's not, hey, let's be smart and find the cheapest way to do something. Hey, let's be smart and find the right way to do it. So as we're going through our process, and I think Brian's going to touch on it a little further here in the presentation, but as we go through each one of those steps, we're evaluating what's important, how we can create the best value, and give an update from a cost standpoint on whether it's a go or a no-go from the town's perspective. So it's real-time live updating. We do a lot of micro studies that kind of help you guys with your decision making and stuff. And with that, I guess I'll turn it over to John Edward.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. My name is John Edward Griffith, project manager with Trident Construction. And related to what the process Chris was just describing, the Sullivan's Island Fire Station is a good example of that. We followed that process. We got involved early. And there, they had a similar situation to y'all. It was an older building built just after Hugo, and they were reviewing and investigating whether we should just reskin it, whether we should add on to it, or just reallocate how it was all done inside. And through that process, we were able to review the smart choices and provide those micro studies and those budget options to the town of Sullivan's Island. Ultimately, we ended up salvaging the slab and the deep piles and the structural frame and made the rest of it fit new and up to code. And so that project turned out really well, and we had a great experience working with Andy Binky over there and Chief Stith and Chief Mandy. So it's very common to this project here.
Great. And like Todd mentioned, I'm Michelle Smith. I'm a principal and architect with McMillan Hazen Smith. And
Michelle, if you could just address
I
the
know if I
microphone.
go behind the microphone, I want to sing. So, but yeah. Thank you for having us. Especially thank you to Trident for inviting us to be part of the team. We, have this great relationship with Trident. They just completed the upfit of our beautiful new office space. We're so proud of it, and we'd love to extend an invitation for y'all to come visit us sometime. But we wanted to bring this project example before you as well. This is an office light renovation for Charleston County. We looked at their existing O.T. Wallace office building downtown. It's a rather large building, but the important parts of this particular project were that we worked with the Treasury Department, the Assessor's Department, the solicitor, and we created, we dove into a space utilization period of planning and programming with them. We listened to their needs. They needed more office space. They needed to renovate some of their public-facing reception areas to make the customer service presentation just a little flow more seamlessly and be more welcoming to the citizens. And so that feasibility study and utilization analyzation, that's a lot of Shun's words, that resulted in a phased renovation for the county. So that phased renovation actually took place over a couple of years, and it was important because they remained in that building during all of those renovations, and you can see a little interesting before and after photo on this slide.
I'm Brian with McMillan Hazen Smith. So what would this process look like if we were fortunate enough to be engaged on this project with you? We'd start with a discovery phase, focus on two primary parts. One would be the physical aspects of the building. We understand through time you've lost all the drawings on this. We would use our technology to develop a 3D Revit model building of this through laser scanning, through software and technology. So we'd have a good idea of what you have here, and then we'd take an in-depth dive, figuring out what are some of the challenges. What would a facility condition assessment of this building say about the veneer, the spaces, accessibility standards, those types of things. But that's only one part of it. That's a physical part of the building. The next aspect we would look at would be the people in the building. And that would be interacting with the user groups in the building. What are your needs? What kind of spaces will you need to be successful over the next 20 years? And the only way to figure that out is by talking with the staff, figuring out what's appropriate. What are your pain points in this building? And then when we combine the analysis of the physical structure with the physical and people needs of the city, we would be able to start to work with Trident. John Edward and I would work together to develop strategies and try to put some costs to those, so we could present multiple options of what is the most appropriate use of the city funds given the budget you have for the project. Where would the city get the biggest bang for their buck on that? John Edward and I have a pretty good experience. We've worked through that in our office. We understand a lot of things in our own office we couldn't afford. We had to come up with creative solutions. We've worked with John Edward on several projects to figure out what creative ideas to provide value that don't necessarily cut things from the budget. What are the solutions there? And we have some good examples of that in terms of sizes of windows, different wood veneers, things like that.
I have a
So-
question
Sure.
real quickly. When you assess a building, prior to really anything getting underway, is that not only sort of the layout of the building itself, but also what's in the bones of the building? How do you go about doing it? 'Cause-
It would be the building envelope, it'd be the structure, it'd be accessibility, it'd be security, it could be even sustainable aspects in terms of energy efficiency. I know that may be an issue for a building that's built in the 1990s.
Right.
So there'd be multiple levels of that assessment.
Yeah, the reason I ask that is we've had a couple of projects down at our marina, city-owned marina, with the Islander 71 restaurant and the Marina Outpost, and when you actually get under the floorboard, so to speak, you find things that you didn't know were there, or structurally deficient. And I just wondered how accurate you think you would be in being able to assess this beforehand without us running into a lot of surprises.
It depends on the scope. If we were able to track down some of the existing drawings, that might help some of that, but a lot of it's just getting dirty. I know Chris was doing that last week. We hadn't been engaged for this project. He's already been crawling under the building, checking some things out for us earlier this week.
And on the public safety building, we went in and just initially came in and cut some little holes and stuff
Right.
so we could view inside and get a good handle on what was going on structure-wise.
Okay. All right. Well, continue if you will.
So we were fortunate and thankful that the city staff took some time to walk us around this building prior to this interview to get us a better idea of what some of the challenges are. And our goal for that was today, we're not presenting a design. We're here to listen, just like we were on the tour, to figure out what are your pain points. And the things we've heard, there's dozens of them in this room we're in now, in terms of having a space for private executive meetings, the dual municipal use of the court. There's challenges with the elevator. There's challenges with the public coming here. Does this building really represent an inviting first impression of the city to the citizens? And there are solutions that can be used to address that.
Okay.
Ryan Phillips with Seaman Whiteside. So we're a civil site landscape land planning firm. So question might be why are we here? Obviously, the focus of this project's the building. We want the building to be useful, but when you start thinking about a usable public space, you have to think a little bit bigger, a little more globaler. If we start doing things, do we need to evaluate parking, access for the public? If we do need to add on, do we need to start looking at things like that? Are there potential win-wins when we do this project? I was lucky enough to work on the green space marina upgrade. Can we enhance the landscape, maybe put in a pocket park? So there's definitely opportunities, while you're already here, rolling up your sleeves, getting your boots dirty. Can we, get some dual benefits by looking, again, a little more globally, maybe even a 20-year plan? What does that look like?
And following up on what we observed during our site visit, is just a lot of things you can see up here related to the performance of your building. Is your attic insulated, which it doesn't appear to be? Is the air barrier consistent? The insulation barrier, all those things that really help your building perform the way it needs to. The HVAC systems, the mechanical systems, to be able to compete with the heat here in South Carolina, we want to make sure all those things work together. And then I know we've got the EOC across the street at the public safety building, but just being able to strengthen this building so during a storm event, you can stay here as long as you need to or get back in quickly and be working with the town like on the anniversary of Hugo. So all that while keeping in mind the 50% rule of the appraised value if we're trying to maintain and stay under that, or the best benefit there and best value. Turn over to Todd to wrap things up.
Oh, yeah. Before we do that, I'd like to ask if my fellow committee members would like to ask questions or address the group. We've tried it. So, Councilmember Myers.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, so can anybody speak, any idea, or can you comment on a timeline of how long it would take for your due diligence, sort of checking the building out, and any idea after that of how long it would take on the design and the drawings?
We did. We talked about that this morning a little bit, and we've got an outline on a placemat we may leave with you guys on what we think that process looks like. And, I think it depends on how deep we go and what decisions y'all make and what that time is. We thought kind of 5 to 8 month design process is realistic to do the evaluation, get input from you guys. Along that process, there's a lot of, we're gonna do some homework, we're gonna sit down with a big shopping list of items and say, which way do you want us to go? We don't wanna go so far and then have to course correct, because that ultimately adds additional time. We thought that was reasonable, but ultimately, if you have some other goals, or if the scope quickly kind of becomes very clear and evident, we don't need to spend a lot of time evaluating those options. So that's kind of where we think, where that would land, if that answers the question.
I realize it's a shot in the dark. I was just trying to get some kind of ballpark idea, but
Yeah.
yeah, thank you.
And our job is to manage that process. We want to put together a schedule for you guys. We want you to look at it. We want you to react to it. If it needs to be faster, we're going to find out a way to do it faster, and really, but along the way, making sure y'all have the information to make the right decisions. So when we're done with that design phase, everybody's happy, we're comfortable, we're on budget, and then we can go deliver this thing.
Councilmember Myers?
Did you say that you had a few more things to say before you wrapped up?
This is great.
I'll
Y'all, let's go
let
for
you
it.
finish your
No,
presentation first, if that
I'm
would.
going to field the questions and let these folks answer. That's great. So we'd love to hear what you have.
Just going back to the slide we just were looking at before, where, yeah, the issues with the building. The biggest ones being the inflexibility of moving walls, and then the building envelope itself, it sounds like has issues. Is that, I know this is early in the process, but those are really big hurdles to overcome. Do you all see those as the type of thing that can be addressed without, more reaching that 50%, or,
I'll probably let John Edward hit on that a little bit. He studied it a little bit more and kind of get his thoughts in that
Yeah.
regard.
Absolutely. So with the envelope, we had similar issues at the public safety building, and we just got to pass the pencil test. We need to get and return to the soffits and make sure all of that's sealed and tight. So that's definitely something that will need to be addressed. And I think can be addressed fairly easily on your existing structure. From the flexibility of the walls, that one's a little bit tougher. And that's where the design team's going to come in with the assessment and the layout of how we want to organize the building and the offices. This is a wood structure, so a lot of the walls are structural. So for instance, taking out that whole wall, we might want to review that. We need to put in some LVLs or some beams and some footers. And so that's definitely a possibility, but it is a challenge.
And our job is to, if y'all want to take out that wall, we're going to study it quickly. We're going to put a price on it, show you what the impacts are, so y'all can make that call. Because most projects don't have an unlimited budget. We believe that will probably be the case here. So how do we list out everything y'all want to do? How do we prioritize? Across the street, Chris did an amazing list of literally hundreds of construction items that you could do with a cost by each one of them. So you guys get to decide. We want to listen. We want to put those so you can make fact-based decisions, and ultimately y'all get to guide where this thing goes. But our team, our job is to provide you the information so you can make those fact-based decisions.
Okay. Any further questions? Okay, well, we thank you for your presentation and for being here. And, we'll hear from Hill now and just move on to the next presentation.
Absolutely. Thank y'all so much
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you.
And
Thank
we hope
you.
we can see you again soon.
All right.
Thank y'all so much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
See you guys.
Bye,
Okay,
Chris.
goodbye.
John.
See you guys.
Bye.
Thank you.
Are we offline?
No,
We're still on.
yes.
They're walking past each other.
We're still recording.
Yeah, everything's still being recorded.
I just hit,
Oh.
it's on. I was just gonna ask what's happened to all of our plans. Why do we not have plans for any of our buildings? It's a shame.
It'll take us a minute to get that up and running. Hey, how are you guys ready?
Hey, Kate.
Hey, Gene. How are you? Hey, good to see you.
Hi.
Good to see you too.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
Katie
how are you?
Myers.
Nicole. Nice to meet you.
All right, Gene, you're gonna be.
I know. Well, this is actually kind of pissed me off because I can't get it.
How are you, bud? Good. Good to meet you. Thanks for being here. That's probably
There you go.
Hey,
Want
nice
a Jolly
to meet
Rancher?
you.
Hi there. Rusty Streetman. Good to meet you too, Ted.
Hey, how are you? Hey.
You?
else ready to try? Amy's on fire.
Okay. Thank you.
Get started. I'll introduce myself. I'm Arnie McClure with
Hey.
Coast Architects.
Hey,
Nice
cool.
to meet you.
Hey.
Marty, Rusty Streetman.
Katie Myers.
Good to meet you also. Hi, Rusty Streetman. Yeah, good to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bart, I'm
Thank
Arnie
you.
with Coast Architects.
Nice to meet you.
Ray knows me.
Yes.
Bart, you won't.
See? Sure, I'll go right
Thank you very
there.
much.
I know where to find you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
If you forget my name.
No, never, never.
Never, Arnie.
Desiree, we're not gonna need all these chairs, we can put them up for you.
Oh, really? Oh, that would be great, Chip.
We have one, Kevin is on Zoom, I don't know.
Okay.
He's there. Kevin, can you still see everything okay?
Yes, sir, loud and clear.
All right, very good.
That's pretty high tech right there.
I know, right?
We need like a little cutout for it.
Hence why we're doing all this.
Amy, are we still
It
live?
is in
Yes.
3 minutes, it says it right. Yeah, exactly.
So, are we back?
We're live, but we have no volume, so just tell me when you're ready.
Oh, okay.
You guys ready to go? I think we're ready when you all are.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Great.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm Gene Garrett, and I'm.
Gene, could you get behind the microphone? Just,
Talking
yeah,
here.
we have a lot of the
And who's on
public.
the?
Kevin
Kevin?
Kevin
Popson is on
Okay,
the
right.
FaceTime, but we do live stream this also, and many of our residents like to go back and either look
Watch
at
the
us
video.
live or the recordings.
Awesome, good. Well, I'm Gene Garrett, and with a G, not like y'all's Gene Garrett here with the town.
Jeannie.
But anyway, I'm a partner at Hill. I live here on Isle of Palms. You know, it's nice to see some familiar faces. I've worked here for a while. Got a project here currently out in Wild Dunes. But, you know, I don't get to work from home, so this will be as close as I'll ever get to working from home, being able to stop here every day to check on your project. So, Arnie wants to take
You took it, then you're gonna make me learn how to do it.
just
So
any button.
any button will forward. Let's see if it'll work. There we go. Well, hello, I'm Arnie McClure with Coast Architects. I was founder of the firm along with my partner Connie Safiris in 2003, and have had the fortune to work with Hill Construction for longer than that. I actually worked with them in the previous firm, so we go way back. Today, we're going to try to get through in 20 minutes a lot of information, so hang on as we go. But I do want to just start by saying that, you know, we're here as a design build team, Hill and Coast Architects, and we'll give you a little more background about some of our experiences together in the past and what we can do for you in the very near future. But I also want to mention, and we won't dwell on it today, but our consultants are Cranston Engineering, who's in Mount Pleasant, and they will provide civil engineering if we need it for site design, and they will provide construction engineering. And then Mecca is a mechanical and plumbing and fire protection engineers, and Guy White and Associates is electrical engineering. And I do want to point out, because this brings up the next subject I'm going to talk about, is they were also the consultants we used on the public services building, which leads me to the elephant in the room, the elephant in the room, well, it's probably two elephants in the room, Luke and I, are in that we both worked as the architects on another design build team to do your public service building renovation work and remediation of some of the problems there. And we had a great success working with town staff. We loved working on the project. I think from everything I've heard, everything's great now, finally, in that building after all the troubles you went through. So we would love the opportunity to work with you again. But as we were talking about this project, one of the things was who's the right fit. And so, when you're thinking about it, you want to make sure you've got the right tools. You don't want to use the wrench to turn a screw. You don't want to use a chainsaw to cut a piece of paper. You really need to have the right fit, the right group of people together. And so you also need to know that size does matter. It's important to have the right size. So if you want to fly 100 people across the country, you don't put them in an A380, which gets 4,600 gallons per hour in fuel economy. You put them in a Boeing 737 in a much more efficient and effective way to transport people. So what we've done today is try to put together the team that's the right fit for you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chip and let him give you a little background on our team.
Thank you.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, the next three sections, you've got a little outline there in front of you, are based on the criteria you put in your RFP. So we just felt like it was important to at least address those things. But feel free at any point to interject. We've got all day. You've given us 20 minutes, so we're happy to stay here and answer any questions and talk about the project.
Right.
Thank you.
I know, it was great the way that you have the criteria and have the points. So if we go past something and we haven't earned all the points, just stop us. We'll find a way to earn all those points. I think the other thing that's important is, we understand how the RFP worked. And so I'm not sure that you knew you were going to end up with two firms in front of you today, or four firms, two groups that you know very well. So with that said, I'm going to try to streamline some of these things because I think you know us all pretty well. I guess should be respectful of the people at the other end of the microphone or the other end of the web. So we'll try to touch on those things. So with that, and so that would also dovetail into, if there's something that we don't cover well enough, just stop us and we'll be happy to talk about it. So Coast and Hill, both firms have been around a long time, since you can see. Both firms have built either a lot of square footage or done a lot of projects through the years, and both firms are headquartered in town, and we think that's important. We think that helps us know the market that we're in. We are accountable to people in town. We're accountable to people that we work for, and we think that's important. There's a question about financial strength. Again, I think you know both firms well from the work we've done in the past. We were thinking that one sign of our strength is that both firms have been hired by banks to do work. And so banks wouldn't take a chance on firms that they didn't think could get the job done. We think one very important part of the two firms here is both firms are through a transition plan. Both firms have no debt, and we think that provides efficiencies in our overhead and how we conduct our day-to-day. And we think those efficiencies help us to pass that on to our clients. Our fees aren't as high, our costs aren't as high, and we were able to pass that on. In terms of capacity to do the work, this project that's been outlined, and I think at some point we hope to talk a little bit more about the scope and the budget that you have and which fiscal year the budgets are going to fall into, and I think there's maybe trying to get more money for this. But in terms of capacity, we have a general idea of what you want to do, and one thing tying into the right fit, this is a sweet spot for us. These are good-sized jobs for Hill and Coast. Some other firms, this may not be as big of a job for them, but for us, this is a great-sized project. We think if this ends up in the 2 to 4 million range, somewhere in there, depending on what we get into for some of the potential additions outside, or whenever we sit down and learn more about the scope, 2 to 4 million is where we live all day. And so we think it's a great fit for us. Both firms also have the staff and the capacity to start the job right now. Work that we've done together. So this is just Hill and Coast. We've worked together 38 times over the last 23 years. 28 of those have been design build. Like, there's no one who has that type of a relationship with a contractor and an architect. We've done tremendous work together, and we are obviously very proud of that relationship and how far back that goes. I'm going to touch about design build experience more in a little bit. Design build makes up 15% of all the work that we do, and design build makes up 26% of the work that Coast does. Again, in this market, that's a fairly high percentage. And I think that shows that we not only do we have the experience, but we know how to be successful in that experience because we keep going back to it. With that, I will pass it over to Luke about design team. I went too fast on one thing. Excuse me for 1 second. I know. One of the things about the design build that we have done is we have decided to work together this many times because we like how Coast interacts with clients that we bring them to, and they listen to them, they draw what they ask, they detail what they ask. And that makes for a great set of plans for our pre-construction department to go put out to bid. I think Coast, in return, likes the fact that we pay attention to the details that they put down there, and they like the way that we build. And so it really is a great team when we come together, and we have respect for what they do, and they have respect for what we do. So that said.
Hey everyone, I'm Luke with Coast Architects. I'm a project architect there. Together with Arnie, we've had the pleasure of working with Isle of Palms before on a successful project. We hope to make it another one. We would be the primary contacts for this project, but there are 3 others in our office. We have Matt Kennedy. He's a project manager with us. He's been with us for 10 years, I want to say, more than that, 13. Okay. Lily is our newest addition to the office. She's architectural associate, helping us with the day-to-day. And Connie, she's the other principal at Coast Architects, and she would be helping us with interior design decisions. And because of our size, we're really all working together, and the others in the office would be familiar with your project, so we're able to pivot. It helps us meet deadlines. It helps us keep y'all happy and to meet what y'all are trying to accomplish with this project. So with that, I'll pass it off.
All right, hey guys. My name is Ted Chestnut. I'm the Director of Pre-Construction and a partner at Hill Construction. Fittingly, I'm going to talk to you about pre-construction. And I want you all to remember 3 P's, okay? Pre-construction, easy first P, is about process and people. Abraham Lincoln was quoted as saying, "Give me 5 minutes to chop down a tree, and I'll spend the first 3 sharpening the axe." The process is about planning and preparation. It is way less expensive to pivot and make a change during the design process than during construction. That means we all benefit from sitting down collaboratively on day one and figuring out the project's vision, its goals, and its expectations. Now, those 3 things support accurate estimates, and I am particularly proud to say that Hill Construction's average from initial schematic design estimates to a contract price is negative 1.2%. I'm happy to put that against anybody else in the market.
Wait a minute, the price goes down?
Price goes down.
Oh.
Price goes down.
I think that's good.
A lot of people think so, yes. A lot of people feel that way. Now, Abraham Lincoln's axe would not cut down many trees if there was no person to swing it. People are the foundation of our process. It's the abilities of our pre-con staff, who, most of whom have been with Hill for over 20 years. It's the relationships that we have in the market with subcontractors and suppliers that lead us to get more quotes than any other contractor because people know that they'll be treated fairly. And as corny as it may sound, it's our relationships with our clients, because the better I know y'all, the better I'm able to understand that vision, goal, and expectations, and the better able I am to guide y'all through that capital P process. So 3 things to remember with pre-construction, 3 Ps. Pre-construction is about process and people. I'm gonna turn it to Gene. Back to Gene.
So our Borough Hill used to be with Hill Construction. He was retired in 2008. But one of his catchphrases used to be, "The last thing we do is build," and that's what Ted was just speaking to. You know, I'm on the construction side, so I'd be the project manager for this project. You know, my background is civil engineering, construction engineering, both at the Civil and Virginia Tech. But I've been managing projects for Hill for 29 years, and you know, we have a great staff of 20 superintendents that all benefit from the things that Ted was just talking about. Like Ted's team in pre-construction interacts with us from a scheduling standpoint early in the process, as well as with our superintendents about any constructability things that would affect your project. But you know, we have 2 project coordinators that work with the project managers to process your submittals with Arnie, with y'all through the process, and make sure that that quality that's in those documents actually hit the job site and are installed in a way that meets all the codes and everything that we'll be working with on this project. So, you know, our superintendents, from an experience standpoint, have about an average tenure of about 11 years. We have some that have been with us 38, 39 years. You know, our people, we, like to stay with Hill, because they like to stay in Charleston. You know, all of our work is in Charleston, and we hope we can do another one here on Isle of Palms.
So we're going to move to, if this will move, we're going to move to the last section of the qualification criteria that you ask us to address. So this is design and construction management experience, and the first item under that heading was public safety and municipal experience. And without listing all of them and showing you all the pictures, between the 2 firms, we've done 75 projects that are public safety, municipal, fire station, senior center type projects. We're currently working with the town of Moncks Corner on programming and reorganizing their whole administrative facilities now. So very similar, trying to develop sort of what we kind of call one-stop shop, similar like North Charleston did, where customer experience is improved by being able to go to one place and get business license and permits and the things that you need to do to conduct business in the town. So very similar type of experience in the past on that.
Sounds like you're the right fit for Moncks Corner.
I'm good for Moncks Corner, but I'm even better for Moncks Corner doesn't have a beach. Well, I guess they started out a beach.
They got a lake.
On the lake, yeah. If Moncks Corner's listening, I love you too. So I do want to move on. The second criteria under this heading was ability to meet the city's program design and construction quality standards. And this was the big one. This was 20 points. So I'm going to see if I can get it. So first, I want to talk about programming. As I mentioned, we've done a lot of programming. Happy to show you examples of that. But what that really is us sitting down and trying to get out of you what are the problems, what are the things that don't work for you, because our job is to be problem solvers. So we're going to work to figure out what's not working now and help you figure out what will work, and then we're going to program those spaces. We're going to come up with the right square footages, and then very quickly that'll help us start to develop a design concept. And ultimately through this process, we're also going to be checking our quality, performing quality assurance. I mean, even at the very beginning, we're like, are we really thinking this thing through when we're doing programming? When we get to design, are we addressing the code issues, the zoning issues, the buildability issues, cost issues? Those are all part of that quality assurance along the way. And then obviously as we get into construction drawings where we're detailing, we're making sure what we're drawing is buildable, affordable, durable. Those are all the things we want to do as we are checking the project as we move along. And then I'm going to let, I think Ted's coming back up to talk a little bit about familiarity with local construction markets.
If we haven't said it, I think we've said it. Hill is headquartered in Charleston, but our headquarters is our only office. Charleston is home. Charleston is our market. That means what goes on in the local market is everything that we deal with on a day-to-day basis. We tend to advise our local clients, but also a lot of times out-of-town clients, because they come in with an expectation of building a job in one way that they're used to in their hometown, and that's just not how it gets done here. And I say that because there's certain loads, I know, Doug, that you're familiar with here that don't exist in Atlanta or Charlotte, that we have to design to. There are trades that are not as developed in the local market, and so we tend to use a certain set of materials and equipment as opposed to this set of materials and equipment. And the benefit that we bring to the table with all of those clients is being able to navigate those pathways to find what's the efficient construction method for both cost and time on site, something that you can get bought out in an easy way. Another benefit of Hill and just being based here in the local market is our knowledge of the local market unit rates. And I'm talking about things like the cubic yard of dirt or the cost to lay a brick. We keep a database of, I'm going to guess and say 12 to 15 rates per trade across maybe 40 or 50 trades that we use for those accurate front-end estimates I was just talking about. That's how we create those, because we keep our finger on the pulse of what the market's doing pricing-wise, so that when we get a feel for what the project's going to be from a layout perspective, we can backfill that with actual costs from the market. And then I've already mentioned our relationships with the local market, but that really does pay dividends for us and for our clients, both in knowing everything that I've already talked to you about, but also just being able to hit the ground running with boots on the ground and getting material from key suppliers that we have a lot of buying power with locally, and being able to get things to start up. I think is it? That's it? That's it? Okay.
Yeah, so we fit all the criteria, and we got one more slide. I think we just are right at 20 minutes, but I do want to conclude, but instead of waiting to the end, I thought this would be a great time. If we've not talked about something you wanted to hear about, it's a great time to ask a question.
I do have a question, and I'll open it up to fellow committee members also, but have you done any sort of pre-assessment of the building here that we're talking about at this point?
We have not, other than just the familiarity. Obviously, Gene lives here, and I've been in the building several times, so I'm fairly familiar with the layout of the building. And if you want to call walking around the building right before this interview, you're going, okay, yeah, we might get an add-on there, or yeah, we need to deal with this. We haven't really done any in-depth work on it.
Okay.
The only thing that I will add is 4 or 5 years ago, I did an assessment of all the Isle of Palms owned facilities, including this building. And so that was centered much more around wear and tear type issues and getting CapEx dollars assigned to fix. So I've been in and out of this building a bunch and been all around it. What you're considering now is like a change in scope and getting some things right. And one of the things I think we wanted to touch on was really trying to identify the program in the RFQ and see what that means. So we purposely didn't come in and figure out how your program would work or would not work. There is a budget that seems lean. There's a program that seems robust. There's talk about you may grow outside or stay inside. And so I think we didn't want to cloud our judgment before we heard from you, budget, scope, and programs. Sometimes if you do that, you get these preconceived thoughts and it can slow things down. So we, on purpose, didn't spend time on trying to develop. I know a lot of firms will do a pretty picture to show you that they're a month ahead when they just are a day ahead. And so for the sake of a day, we wanted to keep things clean and more learn where you're going.
I will tell you, I've done a pretty picture before, and then when it was a school project, and we did it for an interview and said, oh, you could do this, and then when we got the project and built it, and then one of the council members, from our board members of the school came up and goes, this doesn't look like what you showed me in that interview, so you have to be careful what you show.
And I think a key thing, we have done so many of these. The Sullivan's Town Hall is a great example. They were in a town hall for 50 years, and they wanted to build their next town hall for 50 years. And that's a term that you hear a lot when you work with municipalities, is the 50-year build. From the way the RFQ read, this doesn't feel like a 50-year thing. This feels like we're trying to get some more scope and get some more use out of the building that you have. And so, it may want to be kind of an EOC, but it may never be a real EOC because of the existing structure and what we'd have to do to that. So I think just being open-minded to what you want to do is really where we excel. We do renovations extensively, and so that's another reason why we felt we were a great fit for this project.
Okay.
Yeah, I would just add,
Just come on up to the microphone, please.
I helped work with Sullivan's Island to build the town hall, and their program, y'all have about 7,000 square feet here, and looking at what they did over there, they used about 1,400 square feet for this type use, for the, court, open room, and then the ancillary space for that was about 700 square feet, and then your admin space was about 3,500 to 4,000 when you add some hallways. So, 7,000 seems to work within the footprint you have to do, obviously ceiling heights and volume of space may be a little different. That
Configuration, sometimes just reconfiguring what you have will get you what you need. So until we know a little bit more about exactly what you're looking for, we could show how well we can move that generator and add on there, and we can move the air conditioning units to add on there, but do you need to add on? What can we do with what we have?
And what the budget will allow for.
Okay, thank you for that response. Councilmember Myers, any questions, or Councilmember Popson?
Kind of feel like y'all have hit on everything for me.
Kevin, anything?
Mr. Chairman, yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the same question that I did and tried it. Any idea or best guess on how long it would take, or a timeline for the due diligence, inspection, design component of this?
So I think that's, so the answer is I don't know. Like, it could be 3 months, it could be 8 months. And the range is this: if we are able to fit the program within the existing space and not have to add on, then that's closer to the 3 months. If we get into having to add on and there's civil work and we're dealing with having to design in the floodplain and find new parking to replace the parking we took, and we get into an OCRM land disturbance permit issue, I think, Doug, that those are going in that, 8 to 12 month range now before you get all the way through them, but before you get through MS4. So it all depends on where we land and how much we do.
I think from a due diligence standpoint, you'd be on the short, like knowing whether you're going to have to do those things or not.
That's a great question.
You would be in the 30 to 60 day range. You could decide, this is where we're gonna have to go, and it's going to be a longer project, or we can stay within the walls of the thing. This is going to be a much. So I think that's what you're asking is, when are you going to have the feel for that? And I think you would have that in the early part of that 2 to 3, 4 month period.
So he mentioned due diligence and design, so he's right on due diligence. It's a month or two. And then if he's meaning the design, then that would be more long.
Did you get that, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.
Fair enough.
I do have one last slide.
Okay, please.
I don't want to stop any questions,
No.
just so we can wrap up, if that's okay. So I just wanted to hit a couple of points. If we didn't hit them good enough in the presentation. Hopefully, I can reiterate them now. So, again, this team together has 23 years of experience. Coast has only been in existence for a little over 20 years, but I actually worked at another firm, was a principal at another firm, and worked with Hill back then. We did all of the First Federal Bank starting from way back then. And we have a design team. Luke and I have worked with the city staff and would love the opportunity to work again. I think that's important. They know who they're going to be working with up front. And then you've got Gene, who is Gene with a G, who is a resident here on IOP and is very excited about the project. And I know the other team has a resident too. Gene is a principal of the company and has a lot vested in a project like this, obviously. And then who you see is who you get. We don't have a marketing department at Coast. Well, we do. It's us. So we're doing the work. You will work with us. I'm an architect. Luke is an architect. You will work with these guys right here. There'll be a project manager and a superintendent when that time comes, and you'll know those people, and you'll remember them for a long time because it is a people business. We do work together. We haven't been replaced by AI yet. Hopefully we won't be.
Arnie, if I can add one thing to there, who you see is who you get.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, at least from the Hill side. So during the design phase, be more heavy with Coast, less on Hill. During the construction phase, more heavy with Hill, less with Coast. For the construction phase, the three people that you deal with are all owners of Hill Construction. That means we're accountable. That means we're not going anywhere. And so I think that when you're looking to turn over your town hall for a period of time, having an assurance that stability is there is an important thing.
I'm not going anywhere unless they run me off, so hopefully they don't do that. I used to joke that I'll keel over at the desk one day, probably, but hopefully that doesn't happen. And then the last thing I just want to hit home to you is the right fit, having the right team, and we think we are the right team for it. The right fit means more efficient and cost-effective project delivery to you. So with that, I'll close, and hopefully you remember that. So, and I still have to take any questions if you have.
Any further questions from the committee?
No, sir.
Okay, hearing none, we're good, and good presentation. We really appreciate you gentlemen coming in.
Thank you very much.
And we obviously have our work to do on our evaluation criteria. So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank
Good to
you.
see you. Good to see you.
Y'all have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Douglas, I'm leaving this right here. Is that okay?
Okay.
Yes, that's perfect.
Thank you.
Thank y'all again.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you. All right, before we move on to item B, the next order of new business, Desiree, should we talk through just a little bit on this evaluation criteria? How we're going to move forward with this and what the two very good presentations that we heard, by the way.
So what I have shared with you all a matrix that shows the evaluation criteria that was included in the request for qualifications and the associated points for each piece. If you don't mind going back with the information that you've received today, the their response to the RFQ that is included in the packet, to fill this information with the scoring and return that to us, and we will tally that. And the idea would be to use this, the results and the scores of the evaluation to select one of the two teams to request a proposal, a cost proposal to pursue with the work.
Okay, so for the record, we're not making a committee recommendation right here today. We're going to fill this out, score it, turn it back to you all to tally that up, and then we'll take that to the workshop.
That's right. The next step
Okay.
will be to present the results of the evaluation and the RFQ process to City Council at the workshop for
Okay.
final, for discussion. As you well know, there's no decisions made at the workshop, but a recommendation could be made at the workshop for an award to be made at the council meeting later in the month.
Does that sound good
So
to
we're not discussing our thoughts today.
Absolutely. We can discuss the thoughts. If there are any questions about the scope?
I mean, a couple things. Basically, I sat here and tried to fill these out while I was listening to it, and quite honestly, both groups have highest possible score. I mean, they're both, in my opinion, incredibly qualified. So I think it comes down to more smaller, nuanced, which, not to use their terms, but which is going to be the right fit, which is better for us for what we're actually doing. And then I have another question from the Trident presentation, my concern that we could be, and they kind of seem to allude to it a little bit, talking about the Sullivan's Town Hall, that we could be throwing good money after bad, putting a lot of money into a project that instead of building, a 50-year project, ending up spending a ton of money on a building that's restricted in a lot of ways. And I'm just wondering if we have an outlet for that or I don't know.
When we started conceptualizing the need that we found ourselves trying to fill by pursuing this project, we did so in a way being conservative with budget. We know that the city has a lot of priorities. So trying to select the path that is more fiscally responsible, I guess, from that perspective. And knowing that there are a lot of things that need to be done with the building, like the elevator, like the access issues, like the roof, it makes sense to look at this project a little bit more holistically. I think that part of the process would be to do that evaluation and then determine based on our goals and our vision and meeting what we identified as a need, does it make sense to be constrained with the structure of this building and what the cost differential would be if we said, okay, we should look at building the next 50-year-old building if what we need to meet our needs today and meet our needs in the future is constrained by our current building. I think it's all going to be driven by cost.
So I guess my question is that, and I didn't want to get into this with them at this stage of the game if this wasn't something that we were asking for, but is that something that we are going to communicate with them, that like we want to look at this in the way of, I guess my least desirable position would be that we spend $5 million on something that gets us 5 years. That just, to me, or 10 years, or,
Yeah, I think
reach a point where you gotta.
I think that your point is kind of exactly our concern and the reason we wanted to go the route that we're going. And it would be our expectation that the very first thing they do, and it obviously hasn't been done yet, is do that due diligence and because we've talked a lot about, is the space enough? Could it be reworked so that the space is enough? And if it is, are the bones good enough? We really just couldn't get that question answered. So the way we've kind of laid it out is we would have that initial analysis, and then I think as a city and as a council and as a staff, we're going to have to make some very hard decisions about budget and direction, really right in the beginning of the process with either firm that we choose, where we would come back and say, okay, to get a 50-year building is X million, to get kind of a 30-year building with these constraints is this. So I think that's going to be the very hard directional conversation that we have to have probably, a month, 2 months after we get one of these groups on board, so they can do that initial talk to us, talk about needs, talk about budget, talk about the condition of the building. So I think that's going to be front end. It's going to be very, and we're going to have to work through how this initial proposal comes back in terms of pricing, because they're not going to be able to give us a price because they don't know what they're doing for us. It's not unsimilar to how we dealt with the public safety building. We kind of had that initial roundtable and working through the wants and needs, came back to council and said, okay, this is what we think, kind of came to us as the path forward would be this scope of work at this cost. And then once that was the point that we really kind of hit the go button and put it in motion. So there's a little bit of uncertainty until you get to that point, but I think you're going to have very good, clear information about which of the paths we should choose. But right now, it definitely isn't clear. We don't know those kind of answers yet.
But both companies are aware that that's our goal. Or
Yes, and we've kind of
intention.
laid it out.
We could end up deciding that this is not going to work out.
That's right.
I mean,
That's correct. And they've both asked about budget. And as you will recall, there's a 1.25 in this fiscal year's budget. We budgeted that amount knowing that the lion's share of the work would be happening after July. So we would have to have those kind of budgetary discussions as soon as we have the information that one of these firms would give to us.
So
He'll
he'll,
have a two-step. We we start the work with them, and then there will really be the deep dive on what is the direction we're going to go with this.
Right.
What's the cost? What's the longevity of the project? And then we press forward at that point.
so Hill Construction mentioned $2 to $4 million project, roughly, whatever, up to $5 maybe, and Trident has the same expectation. I mean, they are the same.
I
Number in
interpreted
mind?
that to mean that, and I don't think that they have a real way of knowing this, because it was asked how kind of deeply have you looked into it, and they responded, not terribly deep. But that to me was telling me that they felt like this building and generally its existing configuration was going to be a workable solution. I think that was just kind of off the top of their head,
I was a
very
little
much
surprised that
windshield.
they hadn't done some sort of pre-assessment, talking about Hill, as Trident had done, other than just coming into the building. I mean, doing sort of a walk around and getting a feel for how the building was laid out and
Well, I
just
think
what they could spot visually.
the work that Hill Construction did for the city, for years, we talked about the Hill report. They went through that assessment and that
Was
evaluation.
that the wear and tear report that
Yes.
Chip was referring to?
Yes.
Okay. Well-
I will say, though, when we started thinking through what our needs were and what we wanted to accomplish as part of this process, the main thing was space. We have added staff, team members to our staff, have plans to, as we prepare and think through what the city looks like in the next 10, 20 years, we anticipate potentially needing more space. We would like to consolidate all of the city hall operations to one floor and create a more seamless experience for folks that come in to get services. So we started from essentially a very simplistic position. We need space. The space that we have is kind of clunky. There is no sense of arrival when people come to City Hall. You don't kind of know. You walk into a hallway and there's a ton of doors and a bathroom in the middle of the. So we see a lot of efficiencies in just the way that we operate now with the building department, City Hall upstairs, and having all that be a seamless operation. And here with city council chambers, we know, more often than not, we have standing room only in this room, and that is great. That means that people are engaged and people want to come and see government in action, and that gives us an opportunity to potentially expand city council chambers. And so those, to me, that's the big picture need. or that we can't meet right now. And there is an urgency in the way, in just the sense of being able to accommodate our existing staff.
I like that approach. I think it's all, more about better organization, more functionality, and thinking that way rather than, okay, we need to build a 50-year Taj Mahal or whatever. It's not, that's a monolith on the island or whatever. But that we're approaching it and what our needs are in terms of, services to the residents, the needs for city administration and staff. And I do like that approach. I think both of them made really good presentations, and they obviously have strong people in place. And I noted that, I guess, Coast Architects was partnered with, they were partnered with Trident on the public safety building, but now are partnered with Hill for this particular presentation. And Coast had done some really good work architecturally for us back with the redoing, I guess, of the public safety building. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was the elephant in the room that, Arnie alluded to, was that it wasn't the two of them back together.
Right.
And as I understand it from both, it was just a time, it was nothing adversarial at all. It was just a matter
Yeah.
of timing and,
It's very common for.
Yeah.
It's not like construction firms use the same architect for every project.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
not unusual.
Yeah.
But I don't, and back to your point though, I don't think, when they said the 50-year, they're not talking about any sort of like extravagant thing, but they're talking about quality and life expectancy of a project.
Yeah.
And that's my hesitation, is to try to go on the cheap and not get the life expectancy that we could. I mean, that's my concern is,
Yeah, we certainly don't
To
want to
be-
be here in 10 years and
Yes,
thinking, oh
exactly.
gosh, we have to do this again because we didn't think through. I do.
I mean, I think about like this building, like to me, it doesn't seem like it's that old. Because I'm not that old. But then you start to really look around and you're like, oh my gosh, I mean, these ceilings, I could touch the ceiling, that's amazing. I mean,
Yeah.
and it's just,
it was definitely built in a lean, you can just see it throughout the entire building. It was post-Hugo. It was like scratching back from a disaster. We needed
bare bones.
space. We
Yeah.
needed kind of and that plays through, and it was a very lean operation. It was kind of like, this building was probably designed to accommodate 4, 5, 6 people. So it's a culmination of age, the original construction, it's kind of vinyl, and, it's all kind of the cheapest
Yeah.
methodology of construction you can have. So, and that I think is going to be a challenge. Are the bones good enough to warrant kind of putting money into? I think we crafted it in such a way that was our expectation that it would be. Enough attention and enough thought would make it useful again. So it was crafted with that intent, but it could very well be that either firm comes back and says, it's just not worth. We've now, all of the connectors are rusted. It could be any number of things that they come back and say it's just not worth doing, and we'll have a decision to make at that point. Do we, which way do we go? But
is it possible to have both firms, or is that not something that's done in this this world of giving us more of an estimate or a more specific after they actually look at the buildings and look at the specifics of kind of
I don't know
what
how
they
you-
could do for us, or is that not a possibility?
I think that would be more of hire a designer up front.
Okay.
Because that's going to be part of the challenge of going back to these folks. What price are they going to give us, even when you decide who you want to proceed with? What price are they going to give us? They cannot possibly price out a complete project at this stage because they don't know what that is.
Probably the assessment and a preliminary design based
Yeah.
on that assessment and.
So we
We
really,
gotta pick somebody first.
yeah.
Correct, yes.
You can, and once they've done that initial, I think that's going to be kind of a pause point. And I don't think that there would be anything that says if it appears to be not a direction we want to go, or the numbers just seem bonkers, or at that point, that would be a decision that you all could make. I mean, we've had the assessment done, we've had the bones analyzed, we've had a design team look at what the needs are, and we just don't want
So
to
there's
push
a-
forward with this team.
There's
Or
a eject.
And
we could eject.
that's what we did with the public safety building. We engaged for that first piece first, and then once we had a design, we had the programming all laid out, and we decided what, where we wanted to go with construction, then we entered into the construction contract at that point, once we had vetted it. So we would
Yeah.
approach it the same way. It was a design build for that project as well.
Okay, so from us, you need the evaluation criteria, back to you as quickly as possible. How is the public going to know, other than the workshop, as to how we chose on this, or recommendation? Will there be anything that we post online, or will the next time that the public hears about this will be at our city council workshop?
Yeah, I mean, unless we have another meeting,
yeah.
we would be presenting this at the workshop. The presentations and the responses to the RFQ are posted online, so folks can see exactly what you saw today, and,
And the
but-
presentations that were made by each of them will be online
they
as well?
will be, yes, we've received a copy of those, so we'll be posting those as well.
Okay.
And then there would be discussion at the workshop, and then again at the council meeting, there would be discussion before any decisions are made.
Is that good with the committee?
Sounds good to me.
Kevin, you okay with that?
He gave me the thumbs up.
Oh,
You
okay.
couldn't hear it.
Couldn't hear it? Okay. All right.
We're on low
Thumbs up.
battery.
All right, so,
Oh, no. Hang
good
on.
deal. We know that.
We're dying.
Putting you on low battery mode. No, I think you're still there.
Are you back with us?
He's there.
Okay.
Just gonna try to make the phone last a little longer.
All right. Let's move on then. Item 5B, under new business, consideration of change order proposal from Thomas and Hutton in the amount of $42,000 for construction phase services for the 30th Avenue and Forest Trail outfall project. So Desiree or Douglas?
Yeah, I'll take this one. This is, as you mentioned, a change order from the designer of the outfalls, Thomas and Hutton, and they have outlined in a letter to you in your packet, and it's generally just delays. There've been a number of delays from supply chain, constructability issues. There was a series of requests from the Isle of Palms Water and Sewer Commission, and then really, I mean, from my standpoint, it has been the particular headache's probably the wrong word, but the precast concrete company supplying materials has been an endless back and forth on building the boxes, the concrete precast boxes. So it has delayed significantly. We have continued to have biweekly meetings on the project. They've continued to be working on the project. And it's about 4 months so far of additional work. And as Desiree mentioned, the budget to get this completed is $42,000 in additional expense to Thomas and Hutton.
Yeah, those are 6 pretty significant reasons for delay that were listed on there, and really no surprise that we would have a change order in regards to this. Do we need to make a motion and approve to
Recommend.
recommend? Okay. Well, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend the acceptance of the change order proposal from Thomas and Hutton.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. None opposed? So be it. Item 6, miscellaneous business, and the only thing we have there is the next meeting date. What would be our next meeting date typically?
A regular meeting, if we continue the schedule, which would be the first Tuesday, it would be October 3rd. However, we are going to be at a conference the first latter of that week. So I would request that if there is a need to meet, which I think there's one or two things that are in the pipeline, that we do so the following week, or later into the first week of October, whatever works best for you all.
Okay.
So like the 10th?
So we'd
Is
be
it the
talking the
10th?
10th or 11th? 10th? Yeah. I'm okay with that.
10th is, yeah,
Yeah.
10th is fine.
Good with that, Kevin?
He said the
He said
10th.
he'll be back.
He said the
Okay,
10th works.
all right.
Yeah.
Very good.
1 o'clock?
1 PM.
Are you clear on when their matrices come back and when that goes to
Yes.
council?
Yes,
Is it
at
for
the
workshop?
workshop.
It's for workshop, not council.
That's
Okay.
right.
Okay, good?
Yes.
All right. All right, no executive session needed. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second? All in favor, say aye.